everyone. So, today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I'm going to be looking through the absolute hell that is my old DeviantArt account. And I will be redrawing my old art, but not just any of my old art, but specifically my old RWBY fan art. And I'm just going to give my old middle school self some critiques. With that being said, let's get started. So the first one I will be redrawing is this fan art I drew of Pyrrah and Nikos. Okay, so first of all is that I hate this drawing so much that I've already redrew this piece in 2020. I even gave a different background that wasn't just a white void. Yay me. But it being 3 years later, I think we can do something better. The first thing that I wanted to fix about this drawing is first of all the proportions. Years ago when I drew this, I remember drawing this and not trying to go for a chibi-like art style. So, to the little me back then, these proportions were accurate. Taking this into account, the original plan was that I was going to redraw this piece twice. First with the proportions that I use now, and then with a more chibi-like style. But then I decided against this because if I had to do that with every single version, it would take way too much time. So for the first fix, the main differences that I wanted to change in this redraw is the head being too big for the body, the legs being fairly short, and the arms being a bit too long. For example, when you're standing up, your fingers don't normally reach your knees. They would normally reach, I'd say, near halfway down your thigh. And your head usually shouldn't be larger than your torso when using these specific proportions. Of course, this doesn't involve individual style choices. If you want to exaggerate your proportions in your art style, then don't have me stop you. Different styles and having a style that's not realistic doesn't mean the art is bad. Art is subjective. But in this case, these are just things I wish to change. The second thing I wanted to change is the pose. You might be thinking, well, Cherry, if this is a redraw then shouldn't it keep the same pose? No. Because the first thing I noticed is how uncomfortable this pose looks. And I want to try to make this pose both more comfortable, more dynamic, and more accurate to the character. Pyrrah is known in the series as a very capable individual, not just as a student, but as a huntress. She's quick to read her situations and other opponents, and she's quick to adapt to those situations. And I wanted to portray that a little bit better in this redraw. For example, Pyrrah is holding her shield to protect herself, but in this version, it just looks like she's awkwardly holding it, which I feel that as someone as canonically skilled as Pyrrah, she wouldn't just be holding her shield in a way where it's like she's never used a shield before. Same thing goes with her legs. I feel as if she wouldn't just be standing with her feet pointing together. She should be running, sliding, jumping, falling, fighting, because she's a skilled huntress and she knows what she's doing. For example, how to plant her feet properly so that whatever happens, she won't be thrown off guard. The third initial thing that I wanted to change is her facial expression. In the original, she's just so blank-faced. It's like she's just staring into a void. I wanted to change that. I want to give her more emotion. How she is reacting to her situation, how her thoughts change to her environment. I tried to give her more thought into her face. Not anything too jarring, but when you look at her, she looks like she's reading her scenario cautiously. I tried to do this in the last redraw, but I feel like it just made her look more scared and anxious. Also, I just think it's about time that she got a bottom eyelid. So other light things that I wanted to change is I wanted more dynamic shading and I want her to blend into her environment well. Speaking of environments, I also wanted to give her a different background. Now, I'm not perfect with backgrounds, but I still wanted to try because I wanted to push myself. And with all of that being said, here's the final product. The second piece I will be redrawing is this fan art I drew of Nora Valkyrie. I remember drawing this piece immediately after the last one I just showed you. So the first thing that I wanted to fix about this drawing is of course the proportions. Just like the last one when I drew this, I wasn't trying to go for a chibi-like art style. The first fix that I wanted to change in this redraw is, just like last time, the head being too big for the body, and the legs being too short. Again, your head shouldn't be larger than your torso when using these specific proportions. Also, your legs should normally be longer than your torso. I also wanted to change the angle of this pose. Again, the first thing I noticed is how uncomfortable this pose looks. It's not as uncomfortable as the first one, but I think that by changing the angle of this pose, that it could make this more dynamic and interesting. Since I feel the original feels really flat, and I think that putting it into this different angle, it shows a sense of almost a humble confidence, which I think could fit Nora pretty well. The only thing I wanted to change about this pose is where the feet are pointing. In the original, the feet are pointed the same way, when I feel like they should be more planted and pointing away from each other. I also think that in the original, her head is sticking out a lot and her neck is a bit long. The third thing that I wanted to change is her facial expression. In the original, and just like the last one, she's just staring into a void. I again wanted to give her more emotion. At least she's smiling, but the eyebrows make it seem like a nervous smile. Along with that change, I also wanted to change her mouth from a toothy smile to an open mouth smile. And again, why is there never a bottom eyelid? I mean, what was I going for this art style? Other things that I wanted to change, just like the last one, is more dynamic shading. I also decided to do a very simple background this time, because I didn't want the backgrounds to distract from her. That, and I couldn't think of a canonical setting that I could place her in. And with that being said, here's the final product. So when I was looking for a third piece to redraw, I tried to stay away from this very specific other fan art I made of Pyrrah and Nikos. But I ended up choosing it anyways because this is really bad. Also, I chose this specific drawing to do next because so far all of these posts have been in chronological order of the first drawings that were posted onto this account. The original idea for it was that I just wanted to give Pyrrah a new outfit since when Volume 4 hit, she never got that, for obvious reasons because she wasn't in it. So this is if everything that happened in the ending of Volume 3 didn't happen and she was with Volume 4 with the rest of the gang. So the first thing that I wanted to fix about this drawing is the really bad proportions, specifically when it comes to the joints and the really bad anatomy. So the first fix I wanted to change in this redraw is, again, the head being too big for the body, the legs being extremely short this time, the knees not existing, the bust being bigger than the entire hip, the chin sticking out, the shoulders being a bit wide, and finally the lack of elbows. I changed the pose entirely to a classic hand on the hip pose since I felt as if just standing in place with your chin awkwardly and unintentionally sticking out, it looked a little too awkward for a design piece. Since I remember this drawing being an outfit design, I think it would be fair just for this case not to go overboard with dynamic poses and angles. However, this pose still looks uncomfortable. Speaking of the outfit design, I wanted to change a lot of it. The first change I made was, instead of keeping the headpiece that her original design had, I gave her a braid wrapped around the top of her head. The second thing I wanted to change was the sleeves. In the original design, I gave her these almost puffy silk sleeves, think bell sleeves. And I like the idea of bell sleeves, just not on Pyrrah and Nikos. So I decided to give her these armored shoulder pads instead of being bell sleeves, because I thought it would fit her better. Although I did like the idea of having some sort of fabric near her shoulders, which leads to my third change, which was moving the sash that was originally around her waist to around her shoulders. Although I tried my best not to just have it look like RWBY's cape, which I did by making sure the sash mainly only fell on one side. But it still made me a bit nervous. I had her wear 2 black gloves with a gold rim because I didn't like the armband in her original design as much. I also changed the shape of the armor for her shirt. I feel like I should have changed the shirt's design as a whole, but I couldn't think of anything at the time that would work. I also decided to keep Pyrrah's old shoes and the lower half of her original leg armor, but I decided to get rid of the top half of the armor and instead give her some thigh-high socks to mimic the shoes that I gave her in her first design. The main thing I decided to keep from the first design was the cut of her skirt and the neck piece, which has never left her design to begin with. The third thing that I wanted to change is her facial expression. Once again, in the original, she's just so blank-faced. Seems like that's a running pattern in most of these old drawings. To be honest, this isn't my favorite piece, because the second thing Pyrrah is known for is her very formal, sweet personality. She's nowhere near vain, and she's always loyal to the friends she has. So I wanted her to be waving, smiling to show the other side of her when she's more social. Which I didn't even go with because I forgot. Oops. Some other light things that I wanted to change is I wanted more dynamic shading, and again, I didn't draw a very detailed background since I feel like as an outfit concept design piece, it doesn't really need to have that. Although, I did put these gold string-like pieces in the background, just to make it seem less just like a void. And here's the final product. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've never really done a video like this before, so I do hope it goes well. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. If you have any suggestions for future videos, or if you want more videos like this, for example a part 2, please make sure to comment and let me know your thoughts. Also, my socials will be in my description, along with my link tree. And with that being said, have a nice day. Goodbye.